We have all received the information that when we're here, we'll be in small groups and we'll be sharing a 12 to 15 minute talk maybe. And then we are going to comment and evaluate the talk based on identification, persuasion, and invitation. Now, even though we're focusing on each of these three characteristics of the talk separately, they cannot really be separated. The whole talk needs to be giving this sense that the speaker is identifying with the audience, the speaker is persuading the audience, and the speaker is inviting the audience to do something. So just don't think that these three elements of the talk are separate from each other. They really go together, and you weave identification and persuasion and invitation. You weave them through the talk as you see it best fit with your audience, with your context, and with the topic that you have chosen. Now let's focus a little bit on persuasion, knowing that it is part of the whole thing, not just a separate thing. What is persuasion? In any dictionary, you basically find two definitions of persuasion. Persuasion is the ability to move by argument, entreaty, or reasoning to a belief, position, or course of action. The ability to move by entreaty, reasoning, or argument, to move somebody, to move an audience to a position, to a belief, or to a course of action. The second part of the definition is, it is the ability to plead with, to urge, to plead with the hearers, to plead with the audience, so that they move to this belief, or they move to this position, or they move to this course of action that you want them to move to. So persuasion is really the aim of the talk. You don't want to just present the talk. Your purpose is that after the talk, people have moved from one position, from one belief to a different belief, from one course of action to a different course of action. They have moved, you have persuaded them, you have convicted them, you have convinced them to do something with what you say. Now, in order for us to be good at persuasion, I would say that we need to keep in mind that every good talk, every good piece of communication, every good speech has three main elements. It's the guess what, and so what. So every good talk has a good introduction. You tell them, guess what? I have something important to tell you. And then it's the what? It's the body of your speech, the body of your talk, the body of your communication. And then so what? Oh, it's the application. It's what you do with it. It's the invitation that doesn't have to be in this order in the end. It can be all over the talk. So, but it's important for us to think of our presentation, our speech in those three main parts. There is an introduction, there is an argument, there is a body, and there is a conclusion. Now, before I go a little bit further into those elements of the talk, let me just read a few verses where we find persuasion in the New Testament. It's interesting how the Apostle Paul is described as somebody who is persuading. When he is presenting the gospel, he is persuading his audience. So I'll just go through a few verses. Paul in Corinth, as described in Acts 18:5, and he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath and tried to persuade Jews and Greeks. In 2 Corinthians 5:11 we read, therefore, knowing the fear of the Lord, we persuade others. But what we are is known to God, and I hope it is known also to your conscience. In 1 Peter 3:15, now we have Peter speaking. He says, but in your hearts regard Christ as the Lord, as holy, always being prepared to make a defense. And this goes a little bit with, not a little bit, but this goes a lot with persuasion. To make a defense to anyone who asks you for the reason for the hope that is in you. Again, talking about Paul in Acts 17:2-4. And according to Paul's custom, he went to them and for 3 Sabbaths reasoned with them from the scriptures, explaining and giving evidence that Christ had to suffer and rise again from the dead, and saying, this Jesus whom I am proclaiming to you is the Christ. And some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas. In Acts 19:8, And he entered the synagogue and continued speaking out boldly for 3 months, reasoning and persuading them about the kingdom of God. And we can go through other verses in the New Testament that talk about the job of the evangelist in persuading the audience, in persuading people. Now, of course, because we're speaking to a special audience, mostly university students, and in the time that we live, with all the developments in technology and everything, it is very important for us to be as creative as possible. But being creative, of course, doesn't mean we're not biblical. Just because we're creative doesn't mean that we are not faithful to the message. And in essence, we are really persuading our audience for the right thing if we are biblical and faithful to the message while never neglecting the context, while being relevant. And in order to do this, it requires a lot of hard work. A lot of the things that Samuel shared and a lot of the things that you'll hear later from Slavko and all these things that need to go in the talk, for the talk to be persuasive, for the audience to be persuaded, they require a lot of hard work. Now, what do we want to see happen with our audience as we present, as we share the gospel with them? Let's consider first what questions the audience has in their mind when we're speaking to them. There are people who are saying, okay, you're talking about this topic, what are the facts? I want to be informed. So people are watching and observing what facts, what evidence, what proof you have to present to them. Secondly, the people in the audience are thinking, why is this important to me? Why should I hear you? Why should I listen to you? Why should I give some of my time and come to your meeting or come to your presentation? Why is this important to me? Then, if they find it important, they have the question, how do I apply this? You want me to be saved, you want me to be forgiven, but how do I do it? Okay, I heard this great presentation and I heard this great message, but what do I do with it? How do I make it real in my life? And fourthly, they, of course, have also the question, what if I apply this? What if I do this? How will that change my life? So if we have in mind these questions, what are the facts? Why are they important to me? How do I apply what you're telling me? And how will that affect my life? If we have those questions in mind, and these are the questions that the audience has, then we'll prepare our presentation, we'll prepare our talk, we'll communicate in such a way that really meets their needs and that makes sense. And in that way, we're doing our part to be persuasive enough. Now, what do we want to change? We said that persuasion is helping people move from a position to a belief, to a course of action, or to a different position that they held before they heard us. What we are trying to change is, first of all, beliefs. And beliefs are matters of attitudes. We're trying to change, secondly, opinions. And opinions have to do with the verbal expression of beliefs. And thirdly, we want to change behaviors. Behaviors are actions expressed, the beliefs expressed in actions. This is what the behavior is. Now, if we aim to change, and we need to try and help the audience move to the right beliefs, right opinions, and right behavior in this order. It's if they have certain beliefs which dictate their actions, we cannot go for changing their behavior first without changing their opinion, the way they express their beliefs, and without actually changing what they believe. People will always do what they believe is the right thing to do. And persuasion, in a big part, is helping people move from false, wrong set of beliefs to what is the truth, and what is something that is really good for them, and what is not what they think is good for them, but what is really good for them according to our faith. Now, people in our audience will always have various attitudes when we're speaking to them. Some of them will say, I don't care. So there will be people in the audience who will not care what you're saying. No matter how well you identify, no matter how convincing, how persuasive you are, no matter how well you invite them, but there will be those people in the audience who say, I don't care. There will be people in the audience who say, I don't know. I don't know if I can believe you. I don't know if this is so. You are saying, but who are you? There will also be people who will say, so what? Even if this is true. Even if this is so. And there will be people, hopefully, who will say, tell me more. And we don't want to neglect any of these people. We really want to present in such a way that we change the attitude of those who say, I don't care. We change the attitude of those who say, I don't know. And we help answer the question, so what? And we do follow up and we help people who say, tell me more. Persuasion goes for the mind and for the heart and for the will. Persuasion aims to inform the mind through our talk, through our message. We want people to know something. But it also goes for the heart. We don't want people to just know something, we want people to feel something. And then it goes for the will. After they know what we believe is truth, after they feel the truth of what we're saying, we really want them to do something with it. We want them to change their course of action. And that has to do with the will. We want them to say, yes, this is worth believing. This is worth living. This is worth doing. In communication, we need to be very careful that, and it has to do with the language we choose, we need to be very careful that we do not take it for granted that what is in our mind and what we're trying to communicate is readily understood by the people just because we say it. They say that communication happens when it is understood, not when it is said. And this is very important because very often we're speaking to people of a different culture, of a different religion, of a totally different worldview, and very often also a different age. And knowing the audience, and you see how we're repeating, and you see how identification and persuasion, they cannot really be separated. It's the same thing you're doing. Knowing the audience helps you present in such a way that you are persuasive. Now, in the ancient, people have always wanted to persuade others, and we are always wanting to persuade somebody for something, and there are people always wanting to persuade us. And this has happened throughout human history. So this topic of persuasion has been a topic that a lot of very smart, knowledgeable people have given a lot of thought. And in the ancient world, there were different philosophies about persuasion. And we find some of them expressed in the New Testament as well. So there were the sophists, and they had the philosophy of results. Now, we are not, in our Christian ministry, we're not about the philosophy of results, period. The sophists, they didn't care about the means. They just wanted the results. As Christians, we care a lot about the means. Because if you don't care about the means, but you just want to persuade somebody to move to your position, to your belief or whatever, you might end up actually doing something that is not biblical. You might end up manipulating people and using all kinds of tricks and all kinds of ways that are not right. We want to do the right thing in the right way. And so persuasion, the way we talk about it, what we want in our ministry and in our message, is not a philosophy of results that manipulates and forces people and tricks or deceives people. Persuasion also, in the way we are talking about it, is not a philosophy of just truths. This was Plato. Plato insisted on, we just need to tell the truth and ignore everything else, ignore the feelings, ignore the emotions, ignore truth. And of course, we are very concerned about truth, and we want people to know the truth. But we don't want to just present cold truth. We don't want to just fill people's minds with information and facts. And it is also not a philosophy of methods like Aristotle sought. He saw persuasion as simply a philosophy of methods. You find the right method, and then you'll have results and you'll persuade people. Methods change. We need to be very aware of our context and everything else, and use the method that works in Germany or in England or in Denmark doesn't necessarily work in Albania or Serbia or North Macedonia. We are not stuck with a method. We can be as free, as creative as the Lord leads us to be in our certain context with the audience and with the people that we have. So when we think of the ancients, then our philosophy in being persuasive with evangelistic talk comes much closer to the philosophy of Quintilian, who was a Roman philosopher, and he spoke of good men speaking well. And of course, we must qualify that and say, our philosophy should be good men and women speaking well. This is what we want to do. In essence, we want to be godly men and women who speak well, who present well. And that is the way to be persuasive, in the sense that we aim to see evangelistic talks be thought of, prepared, and presented. We want, and this then goes back again to nothing new. It's what the ancients have always thought of. There was a triangle in rhetorics, and rhetorics is the art of persuasion. Persuasion is both an art and a science. So you have to really do something. Art, you create, but it's also a science. You don't invent things that don't exist. You create, you're creative in presenting what is real, what is true. So it's both art and a science. And the ancients always thought of persuasion in the terms of this triangle: ethos, logos, pathos. Ethos has to do with ethics. Ethos has to do with character. And when they said that persuasion is an appeal to ethos, they meant three things. It's the presenter. They are talking about the presenter, the person who is trying to persuade others, having three main qualities. Good sense. He has it all together. He's not somebody crazy, wild. He has good sense. He's reasonable. His mind is okay. He's sound. They're thinking of this person, good morals. He is somebody who has integrity. And integrity, we know, is what we do when no one is looking. And also goodwill. He's somebody who has the audience best in mind. He's not doing this because that's his job, because he will write a nice report later, because he will be rewarded, but he has a goodwill towards us. He is telling me this because he has my best interests at his heart. So ethos is extremely important for us to be persuasive. It has to do with our character. It adds a lot to the authority of your message. You can have somebody, like a parrot, learn the truth and have a great message, but if he doesn't walk the talk, it's not going to be persuasive with the audience. People are not fooled easily. You can fool people only for a short time, but sooner or later, they will discover who you really are. So your character is one of the strongest weapons you have to be persuasive in evangelism. It's who you are. And then, of course, pathos is very important. You want people not to just know facts, but you want people to really feel the beauty of the gospel, to feel how wonderful it is to have a relationship with Christ, to feel how wonderful it feels to be forgiven, to feel that hope that Samuel was talking about. You're not presenting abstract notions, abstract ideas. You're presenting something that is really around a person. And that person wants to affect not only your mind, but your heart as well. So passion is really important. And you are persuasive when you know how to use stories, especially. You know how to appeal to the emotions of your audience and to their feelings. God has created us not only with the brain, but also with the heart, with feelings and emotions. And the gospel should touch the whole person, not just the mind. And then the part of that triangle, as I said, was the logos. Now the logos is the reason. You you want to make sure that there is a logical appeal. You want to make sure that what you say makes sense. The gospel is only true if it is true to reality. If you're talking about something that doesn't correspond to reality, doesn't correspond to anybody's experience, if you're talking about something that is just a nice pie in the sky, and you're not logical, you're not reasonable, you don't have arguments, then you're not going to be convincing. And all these three elements of this triangle, ethos, pathos, and logos, they are equally important. It's not that one is more important than the other. They are all very important, and you need to do justice to all these elements if you are going to be persuasive. Unity in your message, just to add to this triangle to make maybe 8 points. So, ethos, pathos, logos, then unity. Your message must have unity. It should be around a main biblical theme. Because we're not preaching ourselves, we're not preaching our culture, we're not preaching a philosophy, we're preaching the gospel. It should be your whole presentation should be around one main point of the gospel. One main biblical theme, I would say. You should be able to present your whole message in one sentence. And if you cannot say in one sentence the essence of what you are trying to present, it's going to be very hard for the audience to really see the unity and to be persuaded. They will be lost. They will be going everywhere and nowhere. So unity is an important element that you need to consider in being persuasive. Then there is order. Order means that there's a structure around the main purpose. The main purpose provides the unity, but then there is a structure about the main purpose. And you help the audience move along with you as you move along through your presentation. And then progress, structured around the main ideas. You do not give, you have 20 minutes to speak, and you have 3 main points around the main idea. You do not give the last point only 2 minutes, or only 1 minute. Of course, you don't give equal time to each point, but there is some progress, there is some balance. People know that you're moving, you're going somewhere, and that's how you keep them with you. Because if you lose them while you're speaking, persuasion is not going to happen. Now, what is very, very important in summary? I would say, as much as we work hard to be persuasive and convincing, we need to never forget to pray. The Holy Spirit does the convicting. The Holy Spirit, of course, uses us and our words, and that's the way God works. God uses us. But we really need to pray that the Holy Spirit is convicting people, is persuading them of the truth of the biblical message, of the truth of the gospel. We need to be totally dependent on God's work in this work of ours. We are co-workers with Him, and prayer is indispensable for success in evangelism. Secondly, we really need to remember to prepare. Substance requires hard work. We are not going to have something that is part of that logos, part of reasonable, that is sound, if we just take it for granted. Oh, because I believe, I know how to tell them about faith. We really need to take seriously the work of preparation. And the Holy Spirit uses our study, our preparation, our hard work. Then practice. Integrity adds to the authority we said. Let's not preach what we don't believe. Let's not preach what we do not do ourselves. If we're not convinced of the truth that we want to preach, they will see that. And our talk, our presentation will lack authority. We need to really believe in what we preach and practice what we preach. And then present. Present means proclaim. Faith comes by hearing. If you don't speak up, just because you believe it, just because you live a great life and you have integrity and everything, not everybody is going to necessarily come to you and ask questions and say, hey, why are you like this or like that? It's great when people come and ask questions, but we really need to be always ready in season and out of season to present. So pray, prepare, practice, and present. Very important in the work of being persuasive.